Hello!
Hey
and
there, hello.
welcome back to the Tom and Jerry
Jerry
Experience.
Experience.
And you are?
I'm Captain Tom.
I'm Sailor Jerry, or Jerry, whatever you want to call me today. It doesn't matter.
Hey you.
Yeah, hey you. How about that? So in today's episode of the Tom and Jerry Experience, I tell you, I put this question out on the interwebs.
Yeah,
About, I wanted people to kind of mention, hey, what was your first car?
right.
So we mentioned previously that you've actually driven a car, okay, once, right?
Once in my life, and it's the only time, yes.
Tom's secret.
Wasn't a secret.
And then the only other car, if you will, that you've driven was at an amusement park, right?
Right.
Car. Okay, so I was kind of interested because this can really it sparks a lot of memories, fun times. You never forget your first car,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I wanted to solicit some information from our viewing audience about their first car. Now, some people mentioned what it was. Some people mentioned not only what it was, but they mentioned a few things about it. On some of them that contributed, if you will.
Yeah.
So I know, Captain Tom, you have a list there. You have some people who have contributed previously. You have some that have not,
Our first time.
who are first-time contributors. Sure. And so why don't you share with us what you got there?
Okay, well, the first one I've got on the list is Shannon. Hello, Shannon.
We've heard her name numerous times.
Previous contributor to the show. Her car, and I wish we had a picture of this,
Yeah.
was a Beretta GT 6-speed.
Man, I remember them old Berettas. I wonder what year that was. She didn't mention the
She didn't
year.
mention a year, yeah.
But those things had some good speed. They were just pretty looking cars, them old Berettas. Yeah,
Right.
I like that.
Lord knows when they came out and when they ended, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, that they were nice looking cars. All right, so who else you got there?
This is not me. It is a first time contributor named Tom.
Well, no, actually, that Tom he's a grade school friend of mine. Yeah, that particular Tom.
But yeah, he's a first time contributor though. First time.
I'm not
That's
sure.
what you got, Mark. Oh no, he's not. No, he's not.
I don't think
right.
he is. Yeah.
No, he's not. I'm sorry, I was wrong.
That's okay.
Anyway, his first car.
Okay.
Was the 1981 Datsun wagon.
Wow. Now that's not the prettiest of cars. However, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Datsun turned into Nissan. If I'm not mistaken.
Pretty sure it did, yeah.
Now I know we have a contributor that lives in California, and I remember they had a pickup truck that was a little Datsun. Because I remember driving it for like a day. Once they let me borrow it or something like that one day. But it was a tiny...
Out there in California.
San Diego, yeah. It was a little... So Datsun, yeah, that's going back. But I believe, if somebody out there can correct me, but I believe Datsun eventually turned into Nissan. All right, what do you got next there?
Next is Rob, who's contributed before.
Okay.
His first car was the 1985 Chevy Cavalier.
Man, I feel like, so my stepdad worked for a company during this time frame, and they had a company car.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was either an 85 or an 86 Cavalier.
Wow.
And so I remember, I tell you, I feel like Cavaliers were like mass produced.
Yeah.
Over the years. There's certain cars that companies will mass produce. So you can get them fairly more inexpensive because they mass produce them.
Right.
But I remember, man, like you saw Cavaliers everywhere. So that was a good one. I like that one. All right, what you got next there?
The next ones I got are all first-time contributors.
First-time contributors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, yes.
I have a Raphael.
Okay.
Said the Mazda B2000 Lowrider.
You know what? I almost want to get a picture of this one just so we can see what that thing looks like,
I want to get a picture of all of them, really.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that, maybe we'll get pictures of them and put them up on our page so that people can see what they look like.
Because some of these I've got on my list aren't in existence anymore.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, B200?
Like the next two I'm going to tell you.
Okay, real quick, Raphael. I've told everybody that I retired from the Navy,
Yeah.
and I believe you were at my retirement ceremony.
Yes, sir, I was.
So the MC of my retirement ceremony was Raphael. So,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
if you
cool.
recall that, yeah. All right, so moving on, who do you have here?
All right. This is a first time contributor named Jody.
Okay.
And oh no, first time contributor named Chris.
Chris. Okay.
Sorry,
Jody's the next one. Okay.
And I feel for both of you all because you're both talking about what was called AMC, which is American Motor Corporation.
Yes.
Chris said the 1978 Pinto.
Which, although the Pinto, I believe, was a Ford. I'll double check, but the Pinto was a Ford. The next one you talk about,
maybe it was a Ford.
Yeah, but let me tell you something.
Pinto, you're right.
Not only was that, I feel there was some issue like where if you hit the bumper, it might explode because the gas tank was right there.
Yeah, something. They were not considered safe cars after a while.
And you know what else they weren't considered? They were not considered eye candy because they were ugly cars, man. Let me tell you, they were just, ugh.
And some of these cars, not the 85, but I don't know what year Shannon Beretta was, but that also might not have had seatbelts.
I think by the time the Beretta came out, it did. But you never know, the Pinto, or if they did have seatbelts.
The Pinto had to have seatbelts if they in a 78.
And the seatbelt may have only went across the waist versus
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
that might be true too.
God, 78.
Jody, as I mentioned before,
Jody, okay.
A first time contributor, thank you.
Yep.
Said the 1974 American Motor Corporation Gremlin.
Wow.
Gremlin X, I think you got down here.
I don't know what X means. Hopefully it means...
I think that was the letter on the Gremlin.
No, I know that, but let me tell you, you talk about... That was also kind of an ugly freaking car, man.
Well, my mom had a Gremlin. My mom had AMC Hornet.
Oh, wow.
And a Hornet was like a hatchback type of car.
Right.
I mean,
and we mentioned in our conversations about a Pacer. AMC.
Yeah, my mom worked for a gentleman years ago, a lot of years ago, that they got a car, an AMC Pacer for her to drive him around in.
Gotcha.
And I think they might have even took a car trip somewhere in that era. That would have been like in the it would have been in the late 70s or early 80s that we're talking about.
So my grandma on my dad's side, okay, so she had her and my grandpa. They had a Pacer.
Yes.
And I tell you what, if Humpty Dumpty were a car, I'm pretty sure that's what a Pacer was. They just looked at Humpty Dumpty and said, let's put wheels on it and a steering wheel and call it a Pacer. Because, oh my God, it was just like, who thought of that?
The American Motor Corporation, apparently.
Are they around anymore?
No.
There's probably a reason for
so. But getting back to the Pinto, I do believe you're right. That was a Ford Pinto.
All right.
You said that.
Thank you. And well, I'll talk about my first car here. So I have obviously I have a list here as well. Okay. The first one, now this is a contributor to the show, John. Right? Neighbor John, we've talked about him before. He said 56 Blair. But he says
Blair.
But he says Blair. I don't know if that's a misspell, if he meant to say Bel Air.
I thought it was a Bel Air, yeah.
But he says 50. We're gonna have to look that one up as well. But 56 Blair was his first car. Now that's pretty cool.
But he spelled it B-A-N.
Well, he spelled it B-L-A-I-R. So I'm gonna have to look that up.
B-L-A-I-R.
Yeah, I'm assuming Chevy. It might have
been. I
think
there was an E in between the B and the L.
Maybe,
myself,
yeah, maybe.
I heard it of a Bel Air.
Right. Yes. Now Al. He's contributed. Al's the one who had that pet peeve that we should say your name first instead of mine. Remember Al?
I see.
Yeah. He's a good old friend of mine.
Yeah.
So his first car was a 1970 Volkswagen. He doesn't specify what kind. I don't know if it was a Rabbit. I don't know if it was a Bug. But he says with no floorboard on the passenger side. So on the
Oh, my
passenger
God.
side, there's no floorboard.
You could see. In other words, you're riding in his car,
Right.
and you could like see
Right.
the street.
You can see the people you ran over, right? So
Yeah.
he says my friends called it the Flintstone Mobile. Oh man, that's
Now,
hilarious.
that's funny.
That is now. I do have. Remind me. I do have a story about what was going to be my first car was also a Volkswagen, but ended up not being my first car, probably because of a similar situation. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Allison, first time contributor. Now, she said, I love this. I got to read this verbatim here. She says, a sweet ass 1987 Chrysler LeBaron.
Oh,
She
my.
goes on to say, we called it the La Coca Mobile. La Coca? She says the back seat was duct taped together because my mom dropped a little cigarette on the floor, which smoldered for about 3 hours before we even noticed. So, I tell you, but those are the stories when you have your first car, you know, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. You know, it's like just some of the fun stuff that people talk about, right? All right, Maria, first time contributor. She says 1978 Delta 88 Oldsmobile.
Oh my! And now they
Big car.
Yeah, they called those boats back in the
Yes. And I think, you know, if it floated, yes. I actually, at one time, I owned an 82. It was just a car that I was able to get. It was, you know, I mean, 20-something years ago. But I had a 1982 Delta 88. And it was a freaking, you talk about a boat. All right. Now, here's one. We're going to show a picture of this one. All right. So there's a guy, calls himself Bubba. All right.
Okay.
Calls himself Bubba. He a couple years older than me. Went to the same grade school, stuff like that, you know. But he was a couple grades ahead of us.
Okay.
Now, and I remember this car. I remember what he describes. I clearly remember because, you know. So anyway, he says 1971 Oldsmobile Cutlass S. Okay. He says red with black vinyl top. And I believe we have a picture. All right, we have this picture that you're seeing here is actually his car. So he submitted this picture. He still has a picture.
That is neat.
Let me tell you, man. I feel like this car terrorized our neighborhood, man, because it was loud. You could hear it coming. You know, hey, that must be Bubba coming down the road. You know, and you know, back then in his age at the time, he was a teen. I'm sure he wasn't going the speed limit. When you got a Cutlass and it looks like this. You know, I don't know. I don't know if he got speeding tickets, but that it was a nice looking car, man. Bubba, thank you for contributing that. That was great. We definitely appreciate it. All right, moving on. We got some, man, people they really enjoy talking about this, you know. But we only got a few more that I'm going to talk, because I mentioned the Volkswagen thing, right? So we have Ann, first time contributor. She says 1983 Chrysler Cordoba. Didn't you mention that before? Or maybe we were talking about not a Chrysler.
Not me, but
okay, so somebody else.
I know the commercial for it.
Oh, what do you mean? There was a commercial just for
that car you mentioned,
the Cordoba? Okay,
yeah, was I can remember vividly the commercial for it because the voiceover in the commercial was the guy that played on Fantasy Island.
Oh, okay. The
Ricardo Montalban.
Okay, yeah.
And he would go the rich Corinthian leather and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
In the commercial.
Oh, nice. All right, Richard, first time contributor. Richard says, 65 Impala, and it says is it 9 passenger?
Well, that's back when
wagon. Oh, it was a wagon. Sorry, it was a 9-passenger wagon. Wow. So we all know what an Impala looks like. Well, not all of us, but
not an Impala wagon. I don't, but I know an Impala.
I've never heard another picture. We're going to have to get some of these pictures and post them on the site. Like, hey, we talked about this. Here's some pictures.
Yeah, like the Beretta. That one I'd love to see.
Now Richard says, and now this is interesting. I'm going to talk about this here. He says took my driver test, passed the first time. He must have used that 65 Impala Can you imagine parallel parking in a 9-passenger wagon? Good Lord. All right. First time contributor Adric. Adric says 1983. Oh, AMC Concorde wagon. Wow.
I don't know about a Concorde. I couldn't tell you about that.
But it was
one.
AMC.
It
Yeah,
was
AMC Concorde.
yeah.
All right. And then, hey, a contributor with my same name, but he's a senior. I wonder if his birth certificate says senior on it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, probably not.
No, but anyway,
He wasn't a senior when he was born, dude.
Maybe it was foreseeing the future. He says, this is my dad, obviously. He says 1953 Plymouth, and he says it was like driving a tank. So I don't know what type of Plymouth or if it was just a Plymouth. Now,
that might have just been one back in those days in the 50s. Like I mentioned, my favorite car would have been the 57 Chevrolet.
Right. Okay.
They only made one model in those years. So maybe they only made one model of this Plymouth.
Yes.
Because they didn't have like the Plymouth Fury and different things like that.
In our last episode, we had a last-minute contributor that contributed during the show. And Peggy, my neighbor. Do you remember her? We talked about that in our last episode.
I remember hearing about her,
yeah. Well, she says 1970. She said about the thing about Kings Island, the ride that there were like 3 people that said the same thing. But anyway, her first car was a 1977. That's going back. Dodge Magnum. Wow. Dodge Magnum.
I don't know.
Good stuff. I'm not sure either. All right. So, in one of our episodes, a few episodes ago, I mentioned about sea stories, right? You ain't gonna believe this, right? Yeah, so what was supposed my dad told me, the one that contributed to the show earlier, I mentioned his name, right? He told me when I was a kid, he says, hey, I can get you a car up to a certain amount of money, et cetera, okay? And the rules were I had to pay for the insurance. I had to pay for my own driver's ed, stuff like that. Let me back up a little bit. So him and I mentioned a guy named Richard contributed. Richard's the one that had the big Impala wagon, okay? My dad told me when he was a teenager that his own brother, was able to just kind of teach him how to drive. And his brother was able to sign for him to get his license, his temporary license. It wasn't a parent. It was just I guess at the time his brother was probably 18 and he was maybe 16 or something. Whatever. He was but he didn't have to go to any kind of driving school or anything. He just had to get his temps and then he was able to sign up and go take his driving test. Like, holy cow, I couldn't imagine. Now, I mean, they have to do so many hours on the road with their parent. They have to do a course that takes, so many hours of online or in-person course. They also have to drive with an instructor for like 8 hours. So it's a big deal. All right. So what was supposed to be my first car, ready for this, was a 1963 Volkswagen Bug. All right. Now, this is crazy. This thing was a stick shift. Okay.
Oh my.
However, it didn't have a clutch. It had a built-in clutch. So you didn't have to actually push a pedal to change the gear. You give it some gas, and the motor knew that when you got to a certain like RPM, I guess, you could switch the gear. No clutch, but it was a stick shift. All right. So what happened to this? Remember I said it had like a built-in clutch or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, for starters, we took it to a car wash. So my dad was driving this car on a regular basis, going to work, blah, blah, blah. We took this car to a car wash. They wouldn't let us take it through the car wash because they didn't want to be responsible because it had some rust on it and stuff. They didn't want to be responsible for any rust that might have fallen off or something like that. So shortly after, I didn't even have my license yet. It was just a car that was going to be waiting for me. Well, the built-in clutch that I talked about, it fell out. That car is not going to work.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was a great little car. It was like a little love bug, like you see.
Yeah.
A Herbie to love, it was one of those
Herbie
things.
The love bug, yes.
But what ended up being my first car and our producer CJ has a picture of this, was a 1976 Ford Mustang. Okay. Now, the picture you see is not the same color that I had. The one I had, well, let me put it to you this way. We all called it a Rustang. Because this thing, I mean, it had a decent amount of rust, like around the wheels and stuff like that. Eventually the muffler fell off, so I didn't even replay it. It was a loud car. It was a 4-speed. It was a stick shift. It had a regular clutch and stuff like that. The dashboard lights didn't even work, Funny, the one day the dashboard lights worked, that night I was so excited. The next day the car broke down. So I was like, okay, something's not right here. But gosh, I'm sure all these people and thank you again, all the people that contributed. You get so many memories of your first car, and it was so funny when I first got that car. I never forget it. Like, not even a week later, I went to my first prom, and my skill in driving must not have been the best. Because my prom date was like, how long have you been driving? Because she was probably getting whiplash from, because it was a stick shift.
Like I was doing to you at the Kings Island.
Right, at Kings Island, with the old-fashioned car. And because, and of course I was like, oh, I've been driving a couple weeks, I'm another funny thing.
She's like, give me the keys. Right?
There was this one girl I was dating. We worked together at McDonald's, whatever. I go to her house to pick her up in the same car, the Rustang. And her mom looks at the tires and says, yeah, you're not taking my daughter out until you get new tires on that car. So I had to work and get some new tires. Wow. Yeah. Hey, we were,
I don't blame you.
We were 16, 17 years old at the time. So, I figured, God, I think I must have had that car for maybe a year, something like that. And I mean, it was it got me from point A to point B, but it was an ugly, it was however, I probably had the loudest stereo in my school, because that same girl I said I dated that her mom made me get tires, her dad gave me what's called an amplifier for so I had an amplifier. I had nice speakers in the back, and I had this what's called a ghetto blaster. We'll show a picture of that sometime, but it had detachable speakers. I took the speakers off of that and put them in my car so that I could have the loudest, not only did I not have a muffler, so the car was loud, but my stereo would blare, man. It was just, it was great, And I hit that little button from the amplifier. Oh, man, it was some good stuff. And the thing leaked oil like no other. Oh, my God. In front of our house, big old oils. It was just, but it was a first car. You know what I'm saying? I think my dad spent like $300 on it or something. It was a first car. Got me from point, I learned how to drive a stick shift, stuff like that. So. Hey. So anyway, just want to, say thank you to everybody that contributed. That pretty much concludes our show.
Yeah. What should we talk about next time, Jerry?
Well, I was thinking maybe we'll talk about technology, right? Technology, is it good? Is it bad? Can it be both? Some technology is good and bad. Some technology is, like, think about that, just everyday life is just different than it used to be.
We're looking at the technology of today, just doing what we're doing right
exactly.
Here.
Yeah, we could,
we wouldn't be able to have our show without some of it, but like you say, some of it isn't all that great.
Yeah. And what do you guys think out there? We're going to ask that question out there in the interwebs, well, I think what I'll do is I'll mention some specific technologies, right? Some things that we have, like I said, again, that we have now that we didn't have, is it good? It's not so good, whatever. What are the good and bad, and stuff like that. So anyway, that concludes our show. Just want to say, like my mom always used to say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
I wanted to say, love y'all, and I'll see you the next time.
All right, y'all have a great day. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.